When the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the constitutional right to abortion across the United States last year, the backlash around the world was fierce. But it's not just in the U.S. that reproductive rights are under attack. In recent years, efforts to restrict access to legal and safe abortions have increased in Latin America as well as the EU. Now, this trend has spurred authorities in France to move to enshrine the right to abortion in their constitution. Over the weekend, President Emmanuel Macron tweeted the draft constitutional law, which was based on the work of parliamentarians and associations, will be sent to the Council of State this week and presented to the Council of Ministers by the end of the year. In 2024, the freedom of women to have an abortion will be irreversible. Now, the law had already passed the Senate, which voted by a clear majority in favor of the proposal in February. Here's French Justice Minister Éric Dupont-Moretti.
Writing the right to abortion in our Constitution today is not a gimmick, a rhetorical device, or a panic reaction to events far away. Enshrining the right to abortion, a woman's fundamental and inalienable freedom, means security for all women in our country.
Let's bring in Leah Hochter. She's the Senior Regional Director for Europe at the Center for Reproductive Rights and joins us from Geneva tonight. Leah, the French Justice Minister, they're promising security for all women in France. Is that what this move means?
If the constitutional proposal in France is adopted, France will become the first European country to explicitly enshrine a constitutional guarantee for access to abortion care in its constitution. And it really is a very important symbolic step. It will recognize access to abortion care as a fundamental freedom that merits constitutional protection. And so I really think it's very important not to understate how critical this move is. At the same time, what we also need is that laws and policies in France and across European countries ensure that access to abortion care is not just a legal right, but is a realizable right in practice. So we need European countries to move their laws and policies into line with modern public health care guidelines, with international human rights law, and to continue their efforts that they have been making over many years to remove barriers and restrictions on access to care.
Now, France leading the way here. Is this the only way to protect reproductive rights from being politicized like we're seeing in the US, for example?
I mean, France is leading the way, but I think at the same time, we also see many other countries in the European region and globally across the world embarking on law reform processes that have the potential to lead to very progressive reforms. So even in the European region, discussions on reform are going to take place in Belgium, in Denmark, in Germany, in Ireland, in the UK, just to name a few countries where these kinds of processes are kicking off. And of course, we've seen, in light of the recent elections in Poland, we expect there to be very important discussions there too.
Yeah, I want to talk about the example of Poland, which, you know, we've watched as women with a lot of concern from, you know, near and far. There have been attempts to completely ban abortion. Now we're looking at a change in government. But what have you been doing in the past years to challenge the restrictive laws there?
I mean, the situation in Poland is extremely grave and has been for decades. And in 2020, Poland became the only country in the European Union in recent history to remove a ground for legal access for abortion from its laws. And we've seen several women dying in Polish hospitals in recent years because of these rollbacks, because they've been denied access to life-saving abortion care during miscarriages. We know that the ban is having significant impacts on women from Ukraine who are now living in Poland and who need access to abortion care. So the ban on abortion in Poland has been devastating. We've been working very closely with our Polish partner organization, petitions to challenge the ban at the European Court of Human Rights, with the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. We've been working to document the impact that the ban has had on refugees from Ukraine and advocating with Polish lawmakers, with the government that will be coming into place in Poland, and with the European Union on the need for action to address the really harmful and dire consequences of the Polish abortion law.
Yeah. How easily can what has been rolled back be restored?
I mean, I think in the Polish context, it's very clear that what Polish organizations, experts, and indeed the voters of Poland who turned out in their droves during the recent elections, what they are calling for is the decriminalization of abortion as a concrete first step, and then the legalization of abortion at least in early pregnancy in the first 12 weeks. And so if these laws are changed in this way and the ban is removed and these measures take effect, that will move Polish law on abortion into line with the practice in most of Europe. And it will mean that for the vast majority of people in Poland who need abortion care, they will be able to access it safely and legally in their home country.
But there are places in Europe that have even more restrictive policies when it comes to women's rights to choose. Where is your focus right now?
I mean, actually, in Europe, Poland and Malta are the two EU member states that have the most restrictive laws on abortion. And then more broadly, outside of the EU, they are joined by countries like Monaco, Andorra, and Liechtenstein. So in fact, most countries in Europe have legalized abortion, and abortion is technically legal. I think what we're seeing in some countries in the region, like in Italy, for example, or in Hungary, that while abortion is legal, it's very difficult to access it in practice. And that's where laws and policies have put in place barriers and restrictions on access that make access in practice very difficult for many women.
As Leah Hochter, Senior Regional Director for Europe at the Center for Reproductive Rights. Thank you so much for those insights.